Hey, my Nebulas and Cosmos. It's your girl, Lovely Lex, here at the Galaxy Network podcast. Welcome back to another episode for Grudges Part 3. We are going to get into grudges, but we're going to be focusing on the emotional and the spiritual aspect of it and how it affects us in those different ways. How are y'all doing? I'm checking in to see how you guys are feeling and what has been going on. Please feel free to comment, subscribe, and also if we have any critiques or anything like that, feel free to also reach out and put that there as well. Reach out on our Instagram. Everything's going to be back at the back of our linktree. So let's go ahead and talk about these emotional well beings and how it can affect us during grudges. So, holding on to grudges can be a heavy burden on your emotional well being. I have probably, as I've been unpacking, I've probably in the past couple of days have cried a lot because I didn't realize how much it was having a hold on my emotions. Because sometimes when you're going through these grudges or these situations, you start to kind of get cold. I know I do. I'm not talking about everybody else, but I'm talking about myself. I get cold. I kind of shut down. And with that shutting down, people think, oh, it's good to just kind of go in within. Yes, it's good to go within. But the problem is when you go within and you do not take it head on, it's one of those things that lingers. And I have a tendency to cry more because I didn't cry the first time or I didn't release it the first time. So the first thing with emotional well-being implications, it starts to affect the walls around our hearts when it comes down to forgiveness. And having forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. And sometimes, and most times, depending on how a person or how bad a person has hurt you and why you have that grudge against them, you can't extend that. You can't extend that to yourself and you can't extend that to anybody else because you're still like, you might be in a grudge with yourself saying like, dang, I should have known that this person was this, and that. Or I got played. Crap. I'm going to get played again. And you're not forgiving yourself for either knowing and you just want to give them the benefit of the doubt, or you can't forgive yourself for just being you. And sometimes these things happen. People show up as one thing and they show up as another. You grow, you evolve, you change. You know, when you know better, you'll do better. When you start to really use that word forgiveness, because it's always floating around, but no one actually knows how to use it and utilize it properly. Sometimes we forgive people just so they don't stay mad at us. Or sometimes we forgive others because we're trying to prove to them that we can be the bigger person. But in some cases, forgiveness is not always going to be two-sided. You might forgive them, but they might not forgive you. We just don't know how that's going to work, right? Also, grudges also give the strained relationships. They strain your relationships. They strain your relationships with yourself and other people. So resentment creates distance in the connections with loved ones and hinders the depth of emotional intimacy and trust. So what I've noticed is when I have grudges against someone, something, situations, I have a tendency to not even, it changes the way you look at people, man. It changes the way you look at them. It changes the way that you see them. It even changes the way that I'll go as far as it even changes the way that you interact with them. Because say for instance, I'll put it in layman's terms, say for instance, you're cool with one of your family members, or you might be cool with one of your friends and they do something that affects you, but it's affecting you emotionally. It might be a trigger for you. We use those words so loosely, like trigger, and it might be a trigger for you. I'm going to explain it. It might be a trigger for you, meaning it might be something that might bring up an emotion that you've either suppressed, or you have either not dealt with it properly. That's the word I'm going to use. So you suppressed it, or you haven't dealt with it properly. And, or here's another one. Sometimes that person does that often. You might feel that every single time you're around them. And you find yourself going, why every single time they're around me, I just go, or they say something to combat what they didn't like address the first time. So you got a grudge against that last thing because you didn't address it the first time, but then they keep doing the same thing. And it's kind of like, all right, like I got a grudge against you now because now you keep playing you keep playing with me. Excuse me. You keep playing with me. And that causes a lot of friction in places where there should be happiness, like going out to eat with your family or going out to eat with your friends. And sometimes you just might be sitting there, you're like, oh, well, I have a grudge against you because emotionally I wasn't in a good space and you weren't present. Things can be situational, but some individuals, including myself, because I give people the benefit of the doubt because I want them to be a me. They're not going to be a you. They're not. They're probably not going to be a you right now. You might have been a place where you've grown and you've adapted and you've leveled up, but maybe that person is not there yet. So the grudge you have against them might be past tense, but they're still in that present. Okay. It might be past tense for you, or it could be present tense for you, depending on how the situation rolls. You have a tendency to kind of keep growing, and this is what you should want to do: keep growing and keep elevating and keep adding and keep stretching and adding new people and friends and situations and things like that. However, there are times where the grudge you have with somebody, it sticks so bad that they could say something to you. Just hear me. Because you didn't get back to that last season. You didn't fix it last season. So anytime somebody says something to you, you're automatically offended. You're automatically offended. So you're hindering your connection with that person if you want the connection. Let's put that out there. If you want the connection, because there's some individuals where some things are just too far gone. It's a non-negotiable. I don't want to be trying to fix this when I know you can go back and do the same thing. We're not doing that. People have patterns. You know, there's a lot of different tidbits that go in with that, but people have patterns, and sometimes that pattern just doesn't agree with you, especially while you're elevating. Especially while you're trying to elevate. That's what we're doing here, Nebulas and Cosmos. We're trying to elevate. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to stay at one point in our lives. We're trying to elevate. And with that elevation requires a releasing of baggages. And grudges is one of those things that I have been learning that has been plaguing my life for 29 years. No matter what the situation is, no matter if it was a job, no matter if it was a family member that hurt my feelings, no matter if it was a function I went to and I wasn't engaged with, just different things, right? So I want us to be mindful as we're doing this work. It has nothing to do with how fast you go. It's all about what works for you and how it balances you out. So the next point that I have is definitely spiritual growth blockages. How, I'm in my spiritual walk. I'm in my spiritual journey. And these blockages right here, these are probably the worst ones that I have ever experienced. Because when you're really trying to find God, Allah, Jesus, whoever you pray to for yourself, you start to realize that what you want to practice and how you want to live your life has to reflect on all sides. It can't just be one sided, it has to be on all sides. Sometimes it requires you to give up certain things that don't serve you at all. Sometimes you're going to have to sit with yourself and say, well, who is really hurting here? Is it me that's hurting here? Or is it the individual that's hurting? And 9 times out of 10, they don't care. They're repeat offenders. It is what it is. But spiritual growth blockages, as you look at it as a whole, if you sit and you really think about it, it can obstruct your journey towards growth and enlightenment. And what I just said was that Nebulas and Cosmos, I don't know if you're trying to grow, but I'm trying to grow and let it go. I'm trying to grow and be at a different level than I was last year or the year before that or the year before that. I was trying to be at a different level at that time. And now I'm at a different level. I'm seeing things from a different view. When I was here, it was cool. When I was like at a certain like level, it was cool. I could, oh, I got a grudge. I got a da 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 da. But when you start to elevate and you really start to lean not onto your own understanding and also tap into your higher self or your higher calling, whatever you do in your personal, you start to understand that there might be weight in certain things that don't have a balance. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is definitely going to be, when it comes down to spiritual blockages, is like contradiction of spiritual principles. Holding on to grudges can conflict with the foundational principles of many spiritual traditions. I'm not talking about just one. It could be Christianity, it could be Islam, it could be I don't know, whatever you decide to pray to. Okay? It messes with the spiritual traditions that you're trying to elevate to. There is a book that I read, and it came from one of my managers. I still talk to her to this day, and it's called Who Moved My Cheese? And in the story, it talks about 2 mice and how they're trying to get to their goal to get to the big cheese, like the big cheese. And the reason why I'm adding this is because I thought about it and I was like, okay, I do a lot of reading and I understand that sometimes to go to a new level, you're going to have to change trajectory. You're going to have to move around. You have to make things shake. You're going to have to do things differently. But one of the mice, and you'll see it, it's a very short book, but one of the mice was so used to doing things the same way that he ended up hitting dead ends. Dead ends, just was like hitting dead ends. And the other mice was hitting dead ends, but still, he was still trying. He was still going. He was still elevating. So the biggest thing that I've seen, especially with these grudges right here, is complacency. We want to be so mad, so bad, and we just want people to feel the hurt that we felt just so they can just feel our emotion. And there's a lot of times where that can definitely play a big part, in our forgiveness and our compassion for others and letting go. How is that serving you? Well, here's a question. How has it been serving you? Has it been serving you at all? Do you feel good? Do you feel weighted down? Are you able to connect with your higher power and whoever you pray to? Are you able to set yourself free from things that are not the most beneficial so you can get to the things that are beneficial to get you on the next path? Let that one marinate just a bit. The next point I'm going to make is disconnect from inner wisdom. So resentment clouds our spiritual vision, obscuring the clarity of our inner wisdom and intuition. Now, I'm not going to go too deep in on this because knowledge is power and you have to seek knowledge for yourself. Everybody is not, just because someone knows something doesn't mean it's going to resonate with you. So take what you need and leave the rest. Okay. When it comes down to that vision, that spiritual vision, I was in a season, I've been in a couple of seasons, but I was in a season where things were just going haywire. And I just felt like certain individuals, they were just doing things that I was just like not feeling, and I held a grudge against them. I realized that at that moment I stopped hearing. I stopped hearing. I stopped seeing, and I stopped feeling. So when I mean spiritual vision, I have certain spiritual gifts that connect me with God in a different way, just like everybody does. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's what everybody does. They have a gift. And sometimes because you're holding on to things, it's like a big boulder, and then you're just holding on to it like this, and then you're mad because you can't elevate, you can't move. You're wondering why sometimes your money is stagnant, or you're wondering why, you know, uh, let's put it out there. You get invited somewhere with people that didn't care about you, wouldn't even spit on you if you was on fire, or just didn't even care to call to see how you were doing, how you were feeling, any of those things, right? And they asked you to come to an event, just random. You said, "Oh, I'm gonna go," and you go, right? But you still holding those grudges. You went to that event with all of that in your spirit, because this is just flesh. We are spiritual beings. You went all that in your spirit and you went to that event. Now, you could have made two options. You could have gone and released what you had to release and keep it moving and had a good time if you wanted to be around them. Let's put that out there, if you wanted to be around them. Or two, you could have followed your inner wisdom and your intuition of not going because you don't want to be put back in that situation. You see how people like to utilize emotion. People like to utilize emotional feelings with emotional intelligence. And sometimes it's a mixture of the two that don't mix well. Feelings are something. Emotions are, being emotionally intelligent is, they two different things. Because when you're in your feelings, okay, they can come and go. But when you're emotionally intelligent, you can know how to carry yourself, what manner to carry yourself. But then I would have to ask you, and I would have to ask myself this as well. Why would you put yourself in the same situation with people that have shown you time and time again that every time you clear a grudge is back there? You might go to the next level, but it's back. Yeah, no. We gotta clear out these these paths of spottiness when it comes down to it, and how it really helps us not foster new relationships with new people. Because maybe that one person that you're around, and I'm going to say it, okay? Maybe that one person you're around triggers something in you that you don't like about yourself or that you never tapped in about yourself, but that person has it. The grudge ain't with that mug, yo. That grudge one ain't that person. That grudge is within you, and it was already within you, but you blaming them, you projecting on them. Can't do that. Even if you can't do that, you're not going to get no benefit out of it. You're not winning. You losing every time. So the biggest thing with those two things, especially with the emotional and spiritual, is about embracing forgiveness. That word is coming up again, for embracing forgiveness. And it is to just release resentment. And it allows us to cultivate compassion, empathy, fostering deeper connections with ourselves and others. It's that important that you can mess up your own. You can mess up your own blessings by that. Because maybe God, Allah, Jesus might want you to release that. So when the next person come in, they not going to offend you like that. They probably won't even piss you off like that. They probably won't even make you mad like that. You would know how to communicate more effectively. Like, hey, I did not like how you did that. Communication, the one thing that I didn't speak about and with the grudges, communication is key, because we really don't know how people don't understand how they offend somebody unless you tell them. You don't have to yell about it. You don't have to call them everything but a child of God. And you don't have to be nasty. This is the thing. To be communicative, you do not have to be nasty. And if you feel like being nasty is one of those things to communicate, just go ahead and skip off this video or skip off this audio, because it's not for you. It's not. If you're not willing to change or you're not willing to take the steps towards change, it's not for you. It's just not. I'm just going to keep it 1,000. It's not for you. I don't care how many books you read. I don't care if you were talking to that friend and said, oh, you're right for feeling the way you feel. No, she or she is wrong for not holding you accountable. Point blank, period. We've seen in the last time I discussed how grudges can hurt your body and your mind. Now we're talking about the spiritual and the emotional aspect of it. Are you telling me that you're not seeing the pattern here? You got to. Because I definitely do. And whoever is listening, who's this supposed to be for, they're going to get it. Whoever it's not meant for, come back to it. It might not be for you right now. Maybe you might not be in the position or in the mindset to want to make those changes. So just come back to it. It's no offense. Don't bother nobody. You just have to come back to it. But don't keep walking around with it and then making people pay for things that you didn't release. That's not their problem, nor is it their issue. But if you need help, if you need to communicate with your village that you trust, that you can trust, your family that you can trust. I'm not putting coworkers in it because we shouldn't be mixing personal with business. I'm going to talk about that in a whole nother podcast episode. If you become friends with them outside of it, that's, yeah, you trust people that you can count on, not just for financial gain, but just in other ways as well. Okay. So nurturing emotional resilience, that word resilience, I love that word because it's a certain type of strength. You don't give up. You don't give up. You keep going even when times are hard. You got this, like, I'm determined. I got it. I'm going to learn it. So by acknowledging and nurturing your emotional resilience, we're able to process our emotions. And then when we build the resilience that we need and inner strength to navigate life's challenges with grace, and just with grace and grace and peace, and just having a different thought process on it. Releasing grudges is essential for spiritual growth and harmony. For sure. It just is. There's no need for us to keep doing the same thing that we're doing and then expecting a different result. I'm learning that I am a walking work in progress. I am not telling you anything that I have not experienced. I'm not telling you anything that I have not done or have I not seen or I have not spoken to others when we're having these conversations. And those friends that hold me accountable, those are the ones that really those are the ones I really listen to. Like, so serious. Those are things I really listen to. I listen to them because they have they honest with me, but they not rude with it. They're not nasty, bro. They're not nasty. They don't have to be nasty to tell me the truth. People like to say people don't like constructive criticism, but some people are not being constructively critical at all. Sometimes people are just being assholes and they need to know the difference. Point blank, period. But at the end, we're releasing grudges. We liberate ourselves from chains of resentment and open our hearts to transformative power of forgiveness. So, how are we going to nurture our spiritual and emotional this week? And well-being for choosing compassion over bitterness and love over fear. So I have some questions for you. Okay, are y'all ready? We are at the end of the podcast, and then I'm going to go into some housekeeping things. And so, my first question is it will be on my Instagram, and it will be in the YouTube video at the bottom when it comes down to what to do if you want to write them down for your own personal, journal, or you want to journal, or you want to do something different. Reflect on a grudge you're currently holding on to. How does it impact your emotional well-being and your ability to forgive? Consider the spiritual principles that resonate with you. How does holding on to grudges contradict these principles? And what step can you take to align more closely with forgiveness and compassion? That's the second question. The third question is, imagine a life free from the weight of resentment. What would it feel like to experience emotional liberation and spiritual harmony? That one, I, ooh, that one did different. Okay. What actions, this is this part 2 to that. What actions can you take today to move closer towards this vision? Because in order to want change, you also have to have a vision. And if you don't have a vision of what you want to do in your life, when it comes down to impacting your life, because some of us don't have children, some of us have children, and we would just want to change the way we think, because this is a whole new generation. They're not playing that. I'm so sorry. They just not. But it's also best too, while you're still living on this earth, to continue to always learn and have a growth mindset. It also helps you coincide with other people and others better. And then we've got our fourth question. How can you nurture forgiveness and compassion in your daily life, both towards yourself and others? What practices or rituals can support you on your journey towards spiritual and emotional healing? Now, we are, this is more of like a vision question. And I think with this vision question, you are going to be a little bit more of on a pondering thing. So take a moment to visualize your highest self, free from the burden of grudges, filled with love and compassion. Mm-hmm. Take a moment to visualize your highest self, free from the burden of grudges and filled with love and compassion. When you take that moment, what are you feeling? How are you feeling? Do you feel weighed down? What I encourage you to do today is you can go into a thesaurus, you can look it up on the internet, find adjectives that describe how you're feeling. So when you see that come up, or when you see that individual, or if you see them on your Facebook and you're like, ugh, I don't even want to talk to them, or if you see a situation where a friend is speaking to you about people that you don't like and they trying to get you to be on the bandwagon, just all that stuff. What adjectives do you feel in that moment? Take a second and look into those adjectives and really get down to the nitty gritty of why you're feeling that way. But there's all my time for today. Happy Monday, y'all. I love y'all, my Nebulas and Cosmos. Thank you for joining the universal conversation you thought you never needed. Also, in my link tree that is on that QR code on my YouTube, please, I'm just telling y'all, merch is coming. I'm still in the works. We still working on that. We're going to let that ride for now. Please pick up my gratitude journal so we can get this healing going. Follow my Instagram for more. Follow my personal Instagram if you would like to hit me up and have a discussion. Follow my YouTube, share my YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and definitely hit that notification bell every time I drop a video. So thank y'all, and I appreciate you guys. I love y'all so much, my Nebulas and Cosmos, and I'll see y'all in the cosmos.